Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, we saw that there's SMILE, there's PRK, there's LASIK, but there's also intraocular phakic contact lenses for the patient that would do better with that. So I have a bit of experience with this particular phakic implant. It can be used for myopia, hyperopia, toric. It also has a presbyopic lens, and it can be used for piggybacking as well in refractive surprises. It's foldable acrylic, goes through as small as a 1.8 millimeter incision. It's reversible, which is an important concept. Less invasive than refractive lens exchange, and is typically can be used in presbyopia for the 40 to 55 year old presbyopes, particularly patients that have had myopic LASIK in the past. It's also for piggybacking after phaco refractive surprise, as I said. This lens is got a different design, similar to the Star ICL, but it's different. It's got smaller holes, and the holes are in the periphery of the lens. It has a very soft haptic pads, which are rounded and less traumatic to the ciliary sulcus. It has a optic haptic vault, which keeps it more away from the natural crystalline lens. And the little holes on the optic haptic angle has got two little holes there, which improves the metabolism and the flow of aqueous in that area, as opposed to what we see with the Star ICL. And also, as opposed to the Star ICL, the aqueous port is not in the center, it's on the periphery. And I've had cases where I've had to take out the Star ICL because of debilitating glare, even a patient that has 20/20 vision. As I said, no central hole. So the surgery is similar to what you would do with an ICL. Can be done in topical anesthesia. You use a methylcellulose type of viscoelastic. Clear corneal temporal incision is always placed at 180 degrees because the toric portion is customized into the optic. So it's different to the ICL, but you unnecessarily have to put it into a specific orientation. There are complications with this type of procedure: pupillary block, cataract, uveitis, endophthalmitis, too little vault or too much vault. Sizing is a problem with these type of lenses. Glaucoma can be possible, particularly pupillary block. If you don't remove the viscoelastic properly, you can get eye femur. So these are the rare but possible complications. Other risks, obviously overcorrection, undercorrection, but then it's reversible as opposed to LASIK or SMILE or PRK, which aren't reversible. And the reversibility is an attraction for a lot of patients. And also, if you don't want to spend money on very expensive technology of these specialized lasers. Sometimes you need to do repositioning if your lens is not placed in the 0 to 180. With very large pupils, you can also still get a little bit of glare and halo, particularly if you still have ametropia. So it's necessary to check where. Is it really the lens, or is it the ametropia that's causing the glare? Often people have glare because of myopia specifically, retinal detachment and need to exchange due to sizing. It gives a good quality of vision. It actually improves accommodation, and the corneal preserves accommodation and corneal sphericity. There's no corneal tissue removed, no central hole as the star, as I said, easier surgery than iris claw, I believe, and safer, and it's reversible. It's a big selling point. The other thing is I normally do the surgery in the morning so that if you do get a pressure rise, it's not in the middle of the night and the patient doesn't delay to come and see you. We have to also make sure that there's a sufficient volt. I would say about between 400 and 700 is the microns is the normal safe volt. Now, managing presbyopia with this lens, monovision can be used. You can use the presbyopic EyePCL in one eye, and in pseudophakic cases, you can do piggybacking with monovision, or you can do piggybacking with the presbyopic EyePCL in one eye. So it's a very versatile tool for your practice. This is what the presbyopic EyePCL looks like. It was the first one produced, and it's available in various editions. And the diffractive area is only up to the 3.5 millimeter in the center, so the distance vision is preserved. Previous myopic patients, there are many of these patients out there that we did 20 years ago that are now presbyopic, and this is a nice tool for the patient if you don't want to do a refractive lens exchange. Patient is still young, and a lot of patients feel that it's drastic to remove the natural crystalline lens too early. Very important, the AC depth in these cases needs to be more than 280 microns. That's a prerequisite. That is the internal ACD from the endothelium to the crystalline lens, at least 280. I can't emphasize that enough. Just a few case studies. This was a patient, a myopic patient, who was terrified of having LASIK, 47 years old patient. With her full correction, she was presbyopic. So how would you manage this patient? You can do a LASIK, PRK, or you can do an EyePCL. Those are your three options. So if you look at her pentacam, it was slightly abnormal pentacam, and it was under 500. So you have to be aware of possible complications like ectasia. You can see that it is flagged, so both of them flagged pentacams. So we decided to do an EyePCL rather. The patient wanted also to have a reversible procedure. So I aimed for -1, and she's very happy. Here's a 60-year-old patient, presented with cataract and reduced vision. He was slightly myopic, but he also wanted to be without reading glasses. So we decided to do a lens implant surgery, remove the cataract, do lens implant surgery. And the question was multifocal IL or monofocal IL. This was his pentacam. We did a contact lens trial, and the patient preferred the monovision option. So we went ahead and did the cataract surgery. But unfortunately, he had a refractive surprise. Now what? PRK, LASIK, do a lens exchange, or do a piggyback IL. Those are your options. So you've got to manage the expectations. Unfortunately, this patient had some dry eyes. So you have to have lots of discussions with the patient because he's unhappy. Waited for 3 months. Marked the patient at the slit lamp, used the Varion, implanted a toric EyePCL because we decided against corneal refractive surgery because of the dry eye syndrome. Post-op result was 20/20 and the patient was very happy. This is another patient. He was a 47-year-old male. Hyperope, plus 2.5, and a cylinder in the right eye, and he was plus 3.5 in the left eye. Slightly amblyoptic in his non-dominant eye, and he'd had previous holmium laser. So the patient didn't want laser as well, but he also didn't want his lens removed at this point, because he's only 47. So what I did was I opted for a standard EyePCL on the left eye, because it was a slightly myopic, slightly amblyoptic eye, and a presbyopic EyePCL on the right eye. He's very happy. He ended up still slightly hyperopic, but he was able to read at a good uncorrected acuity at near, good vault, happy patient because he's still got his lens. So you can buy some time before you remove the crystalline lens. Here's another patient who had cataract surgery in both eyes, but she ended up with a bad refractive surprise on the right eye. But at the same time, the patient wanted to have near vision. And this was also a good case for us to do a presbyopic EyePCL. We corrected the hyperopia, corrected the astigmatism, and corrected the presbyopia with a piggyback IOL. So it's easy insertion, it's a customized solution, it's a safe surgery. Previous presbyopic patients, as I said, who had LASIK before, ideal cases, astigmatic EyePCL, place at 180 degrees. You don't have to turn it like a star ICL. Doesn't have a hole in the center. Doesn't cause this debilitating glare. It's reversible. This is just a video to just show, this is a patient with a piggyback lens. You can see it goes in very easily. Not such an ideal pupil because the pupil is a bit small, but being pseudophakic is not that important. But if you are putting it in as a phakic contact lens implant, you need to have a very large pupil. I normally make just a side port incision and place some viscoelastic on top of the lens. It makes it also go in easy. It tucks in quite easy. It's got 3 little pads. If you take the central pad and put that in first, it stabilizes the lens, and you can move it the two side pads underneath. You can see this is a smallish pupil, so you have to do quite a bit of manipulation. You don't want to be fiddling around too much if the patient is still phakic.
We can see this patient has a peripheral iridectomy. Is that related to the lens or just happened to have it? This patient has a peripheral iridectomy.
This is a pseudophakic patient. This is a phakic patient. Probably won't have enough time to show this. Thank you so much.